Ball pythons are not beginner species. They're just not. They're sold as beginner species, but they are not. There's a lot you need to know about ball pythons in order to keep your ball python alive. I cannot tell you how many people have hit me up about their sick ball pythons, and a lot of times these snakes die. So that's why I wanted to make this video, to help you guys out. It's all about the setup. Reptile keeping is all about the setup. Hey y'all, it's your favorite southern reptile keeper, Lily Whites, and I'm here today to show y'all how to keep your dadgum ball pythons alive, because for some reason a lot of people don't know how. A lot of people want to go to Pet Stupid and get, you know, info from the random Pet Stupid employee, and I hate to break it to you, but they don't know what they're talking about. So that's what I'm here today to help y'all do, is to keep your ball python alive. So I'm gonna go over some care tips. I'm gonna show y'all how to set up a ball python, whether that be in a glass tank or a tub. You can do it either way for the most part. I mean, by the way, I know that PVC enclosures are typically the best way to go, but this video is more so for beginners, and most beginners are either going to get a cheap glass tank or a cheap plastic tub. They're usually not going to invest in a PVC enclosure. You can't really go into a pet store and buy a PVC enclosure like that. So we're just covering the glass tanks and the plastic tub method in this video. I'll probably do a PVC enclosure video later on. Okay, just wanted to clarify. At the end of the day, you got to give your snake what it wants. Contrary to popular belief, ball pythons actually have personalities, and that means that some may like a glass tank, some may prefer a tub. You know, it depends on the snake. Snakes are individuals, just like we are as humans are individuals. You know, snakes have their own personalities. They like what they like. Pictured here, I have my ball pythons. As you can see, they are all very healthy. I have some in 4-foot enclosures. I have some in glass enclosures. I have some in tubs. I have some in racking systems. And it can work with all of them, but the point I'm getting at is you gotta learn your snake. You gotta put your snake in an enclosure that the snake likes, and that may not always be what you like. Keeping reptiles can't all be selfish. It's selfish enough that we've taken these animals out of the wild. Let's at least put them in an enclosure that suits their needs. You know, I have a lot of people hit me up, you know, wanting to know why their ball python won't eat, wanting to know why their ball python's dying from a respiratory infection, wanting to know why their ball python's not shedding right, wanting to know why their ball python's burnt. Yeah, I get a lot of DMs about that on Instagram. By the way, follow me on Instagram. I post lots of beautiful pictures about my babies. I'm on there a lot more than I'm on YouTube. It's just easier for me to post there for some reason. But I'm trying to make my mark on YouTube as well. Enough chit chat, let's get into the video. Like I said, I'm going to show y'all how to set up your ball pythons. Reptile keeping is all about the setup, because when we get reptiles, these reptiles aren't always native to this country. They might be from Australia or another country somewhere, and being from another country means they have a different climate, different humidity, different temperatures, and you have to make sure that that reptile has those environmental factors that it needs in order to thrive. You know, we want our animals to thrive. We don't want our animals to die, because that would be a waste of money and really sad for them. So let's give them a setup that they like. Let's give them the setup they deserve. All right? We'll get into the video in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm gonna start off by showing y'all the glass tank method. So here we have my beautiful ball python Cosmo. He is a gorgeous banana, spot nose, black pastel, and he is an adult. So this 40-gallon is a good size for him. He does really well in here. He eats really well. He did not start off in this glass tank, no. And that's something that you have to keep in mind before getting your first ball python. Or, you know, some of y'all might be watching this video after you've already gotten your ball python. And baby ball pythons don't like huge enclosures. And yes, a 40-gallon tank is a huge glass enclosure for a baby ball python. We have to keep in mind that breeders, whenever they keep these babies, they keep them in very small tubs that are in racking systems. And a lot of the times these tubs, the snake can't see out of them. They're really small, so they don't see predators walking by. When you buy a ball python, don't buy it from a Pet Stupid or a chain pet store. Find you a local breeder or a nice breeder off Morph Market that's gonna answer your questions, gonna tell you exactly how they had the snake set up before, so that the transition for the snake is not too difficult. You know, with snakes, we have to work our way up. Okay, we can't throw a baby into a huge tank unless the baby is like a vivacious eater and is eating. But I can guarantee you, if you get your little baby ball python and you throw it into a 40-gallon tank, I can almost guarantee you that that snake is not going to eat. Okay, my first baby ball python, I got it home, put it in a big 40-gallon, 2 hides on each side in a water dish, some substrate, and I couldn't figure out why the snake wouldn't eat. I was a beginner. I didn't know these things about snakes. So anyways, back to the glass tank. For a baby ball python, if you're going to put it in a glass tank, I just recommend like a 10-gallon or a 20-gallon max for a baby ball python. And you got to keep in mind that even a baby ball python, it might not like a glass tank at all. So keep that in mind. You might have to keep it in a tub for a while until it gets some meals in them and feels more comfortable around you. But yeah, so this is the glass enclosure that I have for my adult male ball python. He does really well in here. He eats really well, but you know, I started him off in a small 15-quart tub. It's always nice to have both, I think. Have both setups just in case. See which one the snake likes better. And then after you get some meals in his belly and after he's grown a little bit, then you can create a nice, beautiful glass enclosure for them. But we got to get the basics down pat, and we got to get the snake comfortable. That's the main thing. Ball pythons are a very shy species. They stay in burrows for the most part of their lives. Definitely the babies, but when they get older, they will venture out and climb. They are considered semi-arboreal, so when they become an adult, you do want to provide that extra height, but it's not completely necessary when they're babies. The most important part when they're babies is to give them an enclosure that they feel safe in. We want to get your snake eating and shedding right before we selfishly throw them into a huge glass enclosure where we can make them a display animal, okay? With the glass tanks though, you will want to cover up the back, at least the back, and then to make them even more comfortable, you want to cover up all 3 sides, you know, and just keep the front where they can see out. That will ensure that they feel more safe and they will be more inclined to eat. After that, you want to provide them with a heat mat that is attached to a thermostat. No, I'm not talking about a thermometer. Learn the difference between a thermostat and a thermometer, please. A thermostat controls the temperature. A thermometer only measures it. So your heat mat needs to be attached to a thermostat. I will provide links for thermostats that you can buy on Amazon for really cheap. They look like this. Yeah, heat mats. I'll even provide links to a heat mat, but the heat mat attached to the thermostat, and it has to be under the bottom of the tank. You don't want it inside the tank. The snake should never come into direct contact with any kind of heat source. Now, I prefer to use heat mats with my ball pythons. I feel better about using heat mats. You can use heat lamps. No, I'm going to take that back. You cannot use heat lamps. They will dry your ball python out really fast. Really fast. Just don't use heat lamps. Radiant heat panels, yeah. But that, you know, once again, more advanced keepers know about radiant heat panels. You guys probably don't even know what I'm talking about. If you're a beginner, you don't know what I'm talking about, but you know, just stick with the heat mats for now, okay? But make sure it's connected to a thermostat, because your snake will get burned if the temperatures of the heat mat are not controlled. All right, we have to have that heat mat set to 90 degrees. All right, and you need, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about this. You need a temp gun. If you are going to be keeping any reptile, you need a temp gun, because that is the only way to successfully measure the temperatures of the hotspot. Okay, and I will, once again, I'll put a link to a temp gun down in the description below. They look like this. Don't try to be cheap and go without these things. You know, don't try to use the little hygrometer, cheap hygrometers from the pet store. They don't work. They're trash. Don't try to be cheap, because you're going to end up losing your snake. Your snake's going to get sick, and you're going to be spending a bunch of money on vet bills. And the problem with a lot of vets is they don't know anything about reptiles. Even the ones that claim they're exotic vets, they still aren't very good with the reptiles, a lot of them. If you're from like a place like me where there's just not a lot of exotic vets, you know, we just gotta make sure we take good care of our reptiles and have their setups right. So yeah, that's my tank setup. As you can see, there's a lot of climbing stuff, hides. This cork bark over here actually acts as a hide. He's got nice substrate. This is cocoa blocks. This is what I use. You gotta go ahead and give your ball python a humid hide, and I will link down below a humid hide that you can buy. You can also just take like a regular hide, throw some moss in it, and just keep it damp, just in one area. You cannot keep the entire enclosure wet. Your ball python will develop scale rot if you do that. So have a hide, not the warm hide, because that just doesn't make any sense. The warmth is just going to dry that sphagnum moss out. So have on the cool side, you want to have a humid hide. All right, you can just take a regular hide and throw some wet sphagnum moss in there, damp sphagnum moss in there, and just make sure you keep it moist, especially around the time when they're shedding. So you want to make sure that your snake has proper sheds. You don't want to have to deal with a stuck shed. I recently rescued a snake that had a terrible stuck shed for a very long time. The guy was very careless and, you know, didn't really do anything about it. And then finally come time, I guess he was trying to sell the snake, so he put the poor thing in some really hot water and attempted to rip the shed off, and this is what happened to the snake. Yes, it was very sad. I was not able to save that snake, unfortunately. But you don't want to deal with a stuck shed. And if your snake does have stuck shed, which it happens, you can't just throw it in hot water. You got to take that temperature gun and put it in warm water. Make sure it's at 85 degrees. You don't want it any hotter than that. And soak your snake for 20 minutes and then help the snake take the shed off. You cannot go against the grain with the shedding. You will rip your snake's skin, and that's what happened to this snake. But anyways, now I was just clarifying why it's very important to have a humid hide. Your snake needs to be able to hydroregulate in order to shed properly. You can use aspen for bedding for your ball python, but if you're going to use aspen, then you can't just do the method where you put the sphagnum moss inside a regular hide, because aspen bedding will mold, and if you put wet sphagnum moss on top of aspen bedding and it starts molding, then you know that's not good. So you can't do that. Honestly, these cocoa fiber, cocoa block, Repti chip, forest floor, those type of substrates, they hold humidity better. You can't use pine or cedar chips. Don't use pine or cedar chips. You use reptile bedding, okay? Don't keep lights on your snake all night. The lights have to cut off at night. That's why I prefer the heat mats, because I can turn all the lights off at night. Those red lamps, the red bulbs, and those are not. Your snake can still see lights. That red light still looks like a light to your snake. So that's going to disrupt his daytime and nighttime cycle. I would not use those on your snake. And people also argue that they hurt your reptile's eyes. So definitely don't do that. Once again, do not keep your ball pythons in wet substrate, the whole thing, because they will get scale rot, and it's not a fun thing to have to deal with. So that is my glass tank enclosure that I have for my ball python. I might sound like a broken record, but like I said, baby snakes don't like big, huge enclosures. Sorry to burst your bubble. A lot of people say, you can put a ton of foliage in there. It never worked for me. I would fill that thing to the brim with foliage and they still wouldn't eat. So as adults, great. Babies, not so much. Here are my tub setups. This is my adult male Astros setup. As you can see, he has a lot of climbing opportunities. He has a warm hide, a cool hide, nice big water dish, the same type of substrate. Everything is basically set up the same, except he doesn't have the lights on him. So he has the heat mat underneath with the thermostat. You definitely don't want to use a heat mat on a plastic tub without no thermostat, because that heat mat will melt the plastic, and then you'll have a burnt snake with melted plastic all over him, and that, oh my God, please don't do that. Honestly, I think for adults, either the tub method or the glass tank method works, and this is how I've set up mine. I'm going to show you how to set up a smaller tub setup. They sell heat mats in different sizes, so you just want to get a heat mat that fits about 1/3 of the size of your enclosure. If you're going to do the tub method, make sure that the tub has the latching handles, it latches, so that it can escape. But these tubs right here, I got them from Target. They have all different sizes, they have all the latches, and it's just a really good setup for a baby ball python. The sides aren't exactly clear, they're a little opaque, so the snake feels safer. You just basically set it up the same way. A little heat mat, a little thermostat set to 90 degrees. I'm going to put a hide directly over the heat mat. Once again, make sure the heat mat is not coming into direct contact with the snake. The heat mat should be stuck to the bottom of the tub, and the thermostat should go in between the heat mat and the tub. Some people like to glue the thermostats to the inside of the enclosure, but I don't do that. It's just easier for me to put it between the heat mat and the tub itself. That's for a baby right there. And then you have 2 little hides and a water bowl. Put some little foliage in there, and I promise you, your baby ball python will be much happier in a smaller setup and will be eating much better. Just to help him transition, let him get some meals in his belly, and then you can try putting him in a tank. Whenever I try to move my babies up, I don't force my babies to move up. I make sure they have some food in their belly, and I give them the opportunity to move up. If I move them up into a bigger enclosure and they don't eat within a month, no, for babies, it needs to be like 2 or 3 weeks. If your baby's ball python's not eating within 2 weeks of being in the bigger setup, move them back down. And like I said, after the ball python is an adult, then we can go all crazy with the pretty tank setups and the nice decorations and stuff to make it look all cutesy and the lights. But baby ball pythons, you need to just make sure you get the basics down first. If you're a beginner, make sure you get those basics down. The tubs, they shed much better in these tubs because they hold humidity a lot better. You do got to make sure you put some air holes in there. You can use a drill, or I like to use a soldering iron to put little holes in the sides, as you can see here. Honestly, that's all your baby snake needs. Yeah, I think I've pretty much covered everything about the setups. If I missed anything, please let me know in the comment section. Like I said, ball pythons are not beginner species. I don't know why people sell them as beginner species. If you buy him from a breeder and he tries to tell you that a ball python is a beginner species, just find you somebody else to buy it from, because he obviously does not care about his animals. But yeah, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. And like I said, if any of you are experienced reptile keepers and you see where I've missed something, please let me know in the comment section so other people can see it as well. Also, do not let this be the only video you watch. You know, watch a lot of videos. Constantly watch reptile videos and care videos and stuff, just to keep up on your reptiles care, because it's constantly changing. You know, we're constantly learning new things about these animals, and we need to keep our care up to date. Okay, that's it for this video. Let me know what else y'all want to see. Once again, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all that jazz. Make sure you turn the notification bell on, and I will see you in the next one.